All right, this video I'm going to show you how to do synthetic division. It's a shortcut way to do to divide polynomials, but it's very specific. It only works for certain cases. So let's take a look at what kind of cases it'll work for. The divisor has to be of a certain form. So this we could use synthetic division for if we're dividing by something by x minus 3. So let's take a look at this. Notice that the x has to be a first power. It can't be something with a squared term like x squared minus 1, anything like that. We don't want to have anything but an x to the first power. So this would be out. Also, we don't want any coefficient in front of the x. So something like 2x minus 1, something like that, we don't want that either. So it really needs to be a very simple one like x minus 3, x plus 1, something along those lines. Now, when we use synthetic division, we need to remember that when we divide, this is really the factored form, x minus 3. That's the factor. The 0 for that factor would be x equal to 3. When we use synthetic division, we use the 0 for a given factor. So if I'm going to divide by x minus 3, I'm going to look at the sign. If it's a minus 3, then my 0 will be a positive 3, and that's what I'm going to use with synthetic division. So this is how you do synthetic division. So I put the 0 outside of this half of a box right here. And then inside the box, I'm going to pull the coefficients off of what I'm dividing into. So I'm dividing into a negative x cubed plus 4x squared plus 9. So the coefficient on the x cubed term is a negative 1, so I put that in the box. On the x squared term, the coefficient is 4, so I put that in the box. Now notice I don't have an x term, so the coefficient for that is 0. I have to also put it in the box as a 0, and then I have 9. So I've set up the synthetic division box. This is how synthetic division works. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the negative 1. That's the first term in that box, and we're going to bring it straight down, not do anything with it, just drop it straight down. And then we're going to take what is at the bottom of the box, the negative 1, times 3, and we're going to move it over into the next column. So negative 1 times 3 is a negative 3. I put it in the next column, then I add. So 4 plus a negative 3 is 1. Now I repeat that procedure. Okay, so I take the 1 that I have, I multiply it by the 3, and then put its answer over in the next column. Then I add there. So 0 plus 3 is 3. Now we take 3 times 3 is 9. Put that in the next column, and I add, and I'm out of columns over here. So 9 plus 9 is 18. And how this works is we're going to start to the far right. This will be the remainder. This will be the constant term. This is the x term. This is the x squared term. Now, if I had more terms in my synthetic division, it would be x cubed, x fourth, keep going like that. But of course I don't. So that's not okay. So how I write the answer is we're going to say we're going to start and say it would be negative 1 x squared plus 1x plus 3 plus my remainder, which was 18, and remember we put the remainder all over the factor that I'm dividing by, and that would be the x minus 3 up at the start. And that's how I do synthetic division. It's really a fast way to divide polynomials if it's a special case of the divisor. So let's take a look at this one. Let's do synthetic division. First, let's check the divisor, x minus 3. That's not a second power or anything, so I could do that. There's no coefficient in front of the x. So that's a real simple factor. For this particular division problem, my 0 is going to be x equal to 3, so that's what's going to be outside of the synthetic division box. And let's pull the coefficients off of what I'm dividing into. I have a negative 1 on the cubic term. I have 4 on the squared term. My x term, I don't have an x term, so I better put a 0. Then I have a constant term of 9. So let's go ahead and do the synthetic division. Bring down the negative 1. Negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. Add. That's 1. 1 times 3 is 3. Bring it over to the next column and add. That's 3. 3 times 3 is 9. Bring it over to this column. Add, I get 18. This is the remainder. This is the constant term. This is the x term. This is x squared. So I would have negative x squared plus x plus 3 plus remainder of 18 all over x minus 3. Okay, let's do another one. So what we have is we have x plus 1. That's what I'm dividing by. So my 0 is x is equal to a negative 1. Let's set it up outside the division box. Okay, I have a coefficient of 3 on the cubic term, negative 2 on the squared term, 2 on the x term, and a negative 5. So I have a cubic, a squared, a first power. They're all there. Let's do synthetic division. Bring down the 3. 3 times a negative 1 is a negative 3. Let's add those together. I get a negative 5. Negative 5 times negative 1, that's going to be a positive 5. So I put that there on the next column. Add them, I get a 7. 7 times a negative 1 is a negative 7. Add, I get a negative 12. This is the remainder, constant, x squared. So my answer will be 3x squared minus 5x plus 7 plus a negative 12 all over x plus 1. That's how we do synthetic division.